Hey, Minuteman Preparedness here. So I've got a couple interesting articles and some information I wanted to go over with you all today, and it could or may not be related to the possible threat to healthcare facilities in the U.S. So we're going to jump into this information, talk about it, and see if any of it makes sense so we can put it together. That'll be coming up next on Minuteman Preparedness. Hey, so welcome back to Minuteman Preparedness. So the information I want to talk about today, and this story is on multiple news sources. I believe it just came out a day or two ago, several days ago, but the actual incident occurred March 26th, so little less than a month ago. But the gist of this is, and I've got it pulled up here, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there are two Mexican nationals, one 41 years of age, one male, and then the second male, I believe, was 24 years of age. Let me see here real quick. 41 and 24. And they came up from Mexico, apparently, purchased a vehicle, and we're going to go look at another vehicle. Well, they decided to stop in Utah and purchase some ammunition. Well, they ended up purchasing 180,000 rounds of ammunition. And this ammunition consisted of 1,000 round bolt boxes. So 150 boxes of 308 ammunition and 30 boxes of 7.62 for a grand total of around 180,000 rounds of ammunition. So for those of you all, most everybody knows about the 7.62 that's used in the Kalashnikov, the AK. But the 308, I don't own a 308 or 7.62, so I kind of had to double check some things here with this. I need to make myself more familiar with weapons that I don't own, because in a bad situation, you may end up running upon those type of weapons, being able to utilize them. So you need to kind of know their functionality and, things like that. And that's on me. I need to improve upon that. But the 308 is an American design rifle cartridge without a rim. The ammo is commercial or civilian version of the NATO 7.62. So again, with my lack of knowledge in this type of firearm and this ammunition, I don't know if you can utilize a 7.62 inside of a 308 or a 308 inside of a 7.62 a Kalashnikov, an AR. Kind of like in an AR, I have multi-platform, so I can run 5.56 and 2.23. But if you have just a stamped 2.23, you're not able to run 5.56. So I don't know if you can utilize those ammo in both those weapons, or if it's only weapon specific, to that caliber or whatever. I don't know that. But so these Mexican nationals, they drove up from Mexico, purchased a vehicle, went to a ammo store in Utah, purchased 180,000 rounds of ammunition, and had this van slam packed full of 1,000 round bolt boxes. And then they stated that they were going to look at another vehicle. Well, this was all found out because they committed several traffic infractions. They were pulled over, and throughout the investigation, law enforcement officers, observed, all of these 1,000 round bolt boxes of ammunition. There's nothing wrong with buying bulk ammunition, but it's a little odd to see somebody with 180,000 rounds of ammo. And real quick, before I kind of jump in to the gist of this, I looked around a little bit, and so with what they had, looks like they had 150,000 rounds of 308. So I looked at some different websites. Of course, price varies, bolt boxes, name brands, casing, if you get steel, or if you have brass, reman, brand new, whatever. But I found kind of a good general price around 87 cents. I did find another place that had them a little bit cheaper than that, around 76 cents, and then up to like $1.06 a piece. So kind of going off of the 86 cent, 150,000 rounds of 308, you're looking at around $130,500, and 30,000 rounds of 7.62 with the average price of that looks to be around $13,860 for a grand total of $144,360. Now, of course, this is just, an estimation of me looking through different bulk websites, kind of looking at pricing. Like I said, these pricings can vary, but we're looking, in the area of $140,000 to $150,000 worth of ammunition inside of a van that two Mexican nationals had just supposedly picked up and then went and bought this ammo, and then we're going to go look at another van. That's just kind of strange. So the area they were pulled over in is, let's see, the traffic stop was conducted in Canyon City, Colorado on March 26th. They purchased the ammo in Salt Lake City, Utah. They stated they were on, their destination was Pueblo, Colorado, Pueblo, Colorado. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, that's a boatload of ammunition for two dudes from Mexico to be going to buy a van, and then you just decide to swing by the gun shop and pick up this type of a bulk order of ammunition. I mean, I love buying guns and ammo, but I might walk out of there with 1,000 rounds of 5.56 or something, but not not this type of pricing here, not the $140,000 some odd dollar range of ammunition. So I was like, started kind of looking around. So apparently the southern part of the state of Colorado has been known for being an area for 2 to 3 different cartel operations. So I was like, okay, well, that would make sense. They're purchasing ammo for the cartel, and then they're going to bring it, from this distribution point in the Pueblo area and get it back down to Mexico. But then I got curious, started thinking about all of the issues we're having with the healthcare facilities, the terror threats against it, and we know that terrorists have in the past moved through the southern border, and they've been aided by members of the cartel in doing that. So I started looking around, and I went back to my report that we talked about a week or so ago from Commandeleven, and I was like, let's take a look at the hospitals in Colorado and see if there are any level 1 trauma centers in between that population, that mid-tier population of 100,000 to 500,000. And guess what? There is one. It is, my sheets were turned around, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Now, Colorado Springs, Colorado, population as of last year was between 494,000 to 497,000. So right at the very top of that tier, and going to be, I think, right around the 500,000 marker this year in 2025. So I was like, well, they have a tier 1 trauma center. They're right there in that number range that Commandeleven had talked about and other sources had talked about. So I was like, well, where exactly is Pueblo, Colorado? So I jumped on the map, and guess what? Pueblo, Colorado is 43 miles south of Colorado Springs. It's a straight shot up Highway 25. Straight from Pueblo, Highway 25, straight in to Colorado Springs. And then another straight shot further north is Denver. So I was like, okay, well, they're talking about the cartel having an issue in southern Colorado, which doesn't mean that they can't be in other places, but Colorado Springs is right around the center of Colorado. Pueblo is is south of that, but it's still not super south, but it's kind of towards the south. But I was just like, that's kind of that's a lot of kind of oddities there. The two Mexican nationals you know, all this ammunition, the crazy story of buying one car, buying the ammo, going to look at another vehicle. They end up in Pueblo, which is 43 miles south of Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs has a level 1 trauma center, and they're in that population area. So just so you all know, because I was curious myself, there are only 254 level 1 trauma centers in the United States. 254 level 1 trauma centers in the U.S. So, you know, I'm just saying, you know, of course, they just released this information, let's see, on the 20th. The 20th of when this information was released. The stop occurred March 26th, so just shy of a month ago. You know, and it states here that there's several, you know, of course, local law enforcement, more than likely state, and it looks like Homeland Security is involved in this investigation. So were these subjects buying ammunition and, you know, for the cartel and taking it to a hub to kind of distribute out or distribute south? Or was it something, you know, was it something else? I mean, both of these are speculative. I mean, obviously these two guys from Mexico don't have a need for 180,000 rounds of ammunition themselves. They shouldn't even been purchasing ammo in the United States. But, it's just kind of odd, you know, so I'll leave it at that, kind of let you think about it yourselves, look it up. If you want to look at the news story, I looked at it on several different mainstream media outlets. Fox has it, the Associated Press, you know, there's multiple, you know, national news services that you can look at the story, you know, but with the issue we're having with the threat to the healthcare sector, and Commandeleven just got some of their boots on the ground guys. Apparently they just got them back. They may be doing their debrief or something like that. They posted the other day that they're getting ready to have another write-up like they have on this one right here of the current up-to-date information that they have, reference the threats to healthcare facilities in the United States. So we'll see where that information goes. I'll put a video out as soon as that information comes out, you know. But like I said, could this ammunition been going to the cartel down south or being distributed out? Or did it have, you know, another nefarious intent? Of course, both of them, the U.S. administration has labeled the cartels as terrorist organizations. You know, but this terrorist organization we're looking at for the healthcare facilities is, you know, based around the Islamic extremists, terrorist cells, not the cartels themselves. Not saying that they can't work together. Obviously, they could, but then something like that may put a damper on, you know, narcotic sales for the cartels also. You know, I'm just not as well versed in that area dealing with cartels and you know, that type of stuff. But I wanted to put this out to you all. That way you can check out this story. Think about it yourselves. I mean, just the oddities of the location where they were heading, it being down the road from a level 1 trauma center. You know, it's just kind of strange. But we're going to leave it at that. But you all have a great day. Stay safe. And Minuteman out.